We're going to tell you the true story about some former tenants that I had. And this is going to be the story. The part of the story that you really don't know, or maybe the details of which you don't know. Now, I'm going to start by saying I never met them. Originally, when they became tenants of mine, my brother was kind of using his best judgment. And he decided, okay, they seem like cool people. There was only supposed to be the mom and dad, and basically two children, no animals, and no grandmother. That's a start. Little did I know, while I was living in the Philippines, that wasn't the case. There was a formal lease signed, and who's supposed to be living there? Formal lease did not include a disabled mother, and did not include 2 dogs, which were supposedly going to be a situation where they would pay X amount for each dog for potential damage. Written into the lease. They didn't. They convinced my brother somehow not to say anything. Okay, well, you could understand where there's some friction with my brother. During this time of their tenancy, there were domestic disputes in front of the children all the time. One of the children, I'm not going to say whether it's male or female, was subjected to pot smoking around the house, cigarette smoking around the house, and domestic arguments galore. That's correct. And one of the children was suicidal and had to have a counselor come by at the house on a regular basis. Why? I don't know. Look at the parent situation, and maybe that is the answer or the problem that caused the problem. These particular tenants, and we're not going to mention them by name because I've had many tenants there, but we're going to give you this story anyway. It could be any one of my tenants, but I'm going to give you this story. And if it sounds familiar, purely could be coincidental, but here's the story as it goes on. I, at that point, never met them other than on Skype when they were first introduced. They tried to look their best in front of the camera. I did not make these choices. My brother made them for me. That was a big mistake right there. Okay, as time went on, they were in and out of work, and one of them had a little business on the internet to try to sell a certain product. Didn't do very well with that. One of them was in, let's just say, the beauty industry. That didn't work very well. One of them was an ex-military person who got a disability check, so that's what they lived on. And they were also living off the grandmother, who illegally was living there, off her money. So you would think, well, they probably have plenty of money to pay the rent, this and that. But unfortunately, they had a habit. It's called marijuana. They had a habit of buying, using, and selling marijuana. To my dismay, once the premises were empty, I climbed up into my attic space, which I know very intimately. Nobody goes up there. There's only one person that's ever been up there, other than me. Possibly a worker for some reason. But there were cut-up plywood boards on there, right where the light fixture is. They were plywood that was cut up to cover the spaces. You know how the boards on the floor are open to the ceiling, 2x8s, whatever they are. Okay. There were some dried up marijuana leaves. Okay. And there was these never been put there before. I know everything I had up there, right where the hatch is. Where you climb up the ladder, go into the hatch. They were growing keikis. Keikis are babies in Hawaiian. Plants. Then transplanting it somewhere else. It's nobody other than me and one other person that's ever been in my attic space, ever, except an exterminator, perhaps, when I had some termites. Not the kind that's the really bad termites that were going to just infestate the whole house. It was nothing like that at all. Never had a bug problem in there. Never had ever a bed bug problem. They took pictures off a computer and said it was their bed. It wasn't even their bed that was in the room. I know the bed intimately. It was a brand new mattress, brand new metal steel structure frame. They allowed the mother who was disabled to sleep on that bed that they claimed had bed bugs. Never, ever had bed bugs. And when it was told to my brother to get to me. My brother wanted to go investigate. They didn't want to show him. Oh, I got the room sealed off. I got it under control, he says. Didn't want to show him the room. But there was a reason why he didn't want to show him the room. Because let me give you a visual of some sort. Use your imagination what that room was like. When I finally was able to get into that apartment, when I kicked their asses out with a legal order by the sheriff, I went in that room. To my horror, both rooms were like that, both bedrooms. The carpeting that was in there, which was new just prior to them moving in, was about 3 shades different color, even yellowish, because they had 2 illegal dogs that they didn't take out very often. They would piss and shit in the house wherever they wanted to. There was even a time when they were not going to be home, and he said to my brother, can you watch the dogs, let them out or something so they can go pee and poop? Brother came in there was poop right in the middle of the living room. Looks like it's been there for a while. But if you would have seen what was inside that bedroom, what they were living on, the kids, their room, the mother's room, you'd be in shock, you'd be pissed, you'd be furious, you would be livid. It smelt like a fucking urine factory. There was shit on the floor. My carpets were completely ruined. Even the walls in the room were discolored. Even the windowsills and the metal edgings on there were covered with mold. They've never cleaned them. The windows were covered with mold. Both rooms, both. I had to repaint everything in the house. Every single room. They even etched something, a heart or something, on my mirror in the bathroom. I'm telling you about these tenants because I want the truth to come out. It's time enough I could talk about it at this point. I'm not mentioning any names. I've had many tenants before, so disclaimer. Domestic fights. Marijuana growing and selling. I've witnessed it a couple of times. And I shut up about it. I said, well, how often do they do this? I didn't know. Found out later, though. That could have screwed my whole ownership of that house. Could have screwed up my brother's Section 8. But they didn't care. They even tried to attack my brother, who they were supposed to be so friendly with, like part of the family. They called him Uncle, whatever his name was. But yet, when shit hit the fan with these people, I'm going to tell you what happened. They tried to report him. They tried to get him off Section 8. I actually had permission when I was in Hawaii, because I had nowhere else to stay over his apartment. I had permission from the county housing people, the director. I couldn't stay there forever, but she understood the circumstance. My brother, it was beneficial to have me around him because he had a lot of health conditions. It was all approved, absolutely approved, or else I would not have been able to stay there. And I didn't want to cause any friction. So I abided by the rules. She allowed me to stay there, no problem. But they decided to attack, and I'll tell you why this all happened. We'll get to that. But they decided to go on the attack, try to call Section 8. So did Fazio. Fazio tried to fucking call every fucking official they could. Michael Fazio, who's laying dead right now. And I'm not going to desecrate his name, but I'm going to tell you what happened. He went in on this. They tried to call Section 8 County Housing. They tried to call inspectors on my house. When there was absolutely no building errors, no building permit problems. Everything was on the up and up. Even the structure that I built that used to be a two-sided, well, it was part of the house. It was a 2-car carport built right in the middle of the house, was part of the structure. There were no supporting structures in there at all when I made changes. I never interfered with any supporting structures in there. None. Why did they do all this? Then they would make a lot of allegations about their daughter. Or anything, really. I had just finished painting the house. And I was doing YouTube shows. I wanted to show people, hey, looking great, huh? Pitch perfect, isn't it? Looking sharp. Exact words I said, looking sharp. Daughter comes walking out of the house, and their car happened to be in front of where their spot is. Okay? That's all. And she happened to get into the picture while I was video. I wasn't videotaping her at all. I had no reason to. Believe me, I had no reason to. But she walked out of the house, passed by on camera. They turned around and said that I was purposely trying to put her on camera for something sexual. When the video itself proved that I only said one thing. I said, yeah, that's my tenant's daughter. I said, she's only so-and-so age, and she's really tall for her age. That's all I said. They made something sexual out of that. We'll tell you all why coming up, okay? Just let me get down to that. Then they got on me because their license plate on the car just happened to be visible on my video, as if I was pointing to the license plate on their car. Another incident. A package was delivered one time. A package. I don't know who it was from. All I know is that, what's the name of the brown truck? United Parcel came by. And it was at the end of the day. My block is not busy with traffic, but during people coming home from work, there was a little bit of traffic going by and by. And my gate was kind of tight there, the entryway. So he didn't bother to come in. He just was across the street. I knew it was for me because he was in front of it. I said, you got a package for here? Yeah. Is this, da-da-da address? I said, yeah. Okay. It was a heavy package. Surprised I didn't get a goddamn hernia. I didn't look at the moment who it was from. I picked it up. It could have been for me. So I looked at it, and I seen the label, and I seen who it was for. So I put it down on the ground, right close to where they lived, just to show them that, hey, you got a package. Yeah, I did show it on camera. Okay. But I showed it purposely on camera because I wanted to show that I went out of my way to carry this heavy package. I didn't have a cart, nothing like that. And I carried that about 50 feet from the road, very heavy, probably 70 pounds. It was a piece of machinery. And I carried that over, put it down near their spot. So they held that against me too. Okay. Then it went on and on and on. Allegations went up and down. But why? Well, I'm going to tell you why. Their money was sporadic. They had a hard time finding any kind of rental. And unfortunately, there was racism involved with their situation because in Hawaii, there's maybe only in the town of Pahoa do they accept a lot of African Americans there. It's kind of a bohemian town. But generally in Hawaii, they were not very favorable about renting to African Americans. That's just a fact. Nothing racial going on here with me. It's just a fact. They had hard times, but I never thought it was their first rodeo. So when they got our place, they were just like, in heaven. We found a place that someone's going to accept us. There's enough room for them. They were really happy. Never had problems with them. Not for a while. But when their money was going a little sporadic and things were happening, and when they weren't abiding, when I found out that they had the dogs there, that kind of started things off a little bit. They had their mother there, and they were not in the lease. They were supposed to pay about $350 per dog if I approved it. The dogs did so much damage to that place, you as a landlord, you would be livid. Absolutely livid. And the money I had to put out to correct everything that they damaged in my house. It was ridiculous. It was stupendous. It was disgusting. You couldn't walk in those bedrooms without feeling nauseous. That's how bad it was. And that's how they lived. They let their mother, who was wheelchair bound, to live in one of these rooms that they created. The bad sanitation. There was never any bed bugs in that house. I'm practically a germ freak, and you know that about me. I would never allow bugs in a fucking house. They don't belong in a house. They belong outside. There would never, ever, and there never was ever any bed bugs in my house. But they went as far to try to get money out of me, and that's all it was about. They wanted a paycheck. Johnny Paycheck. They wanted a paycheck. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because I wanted to. Nobody prompted me to talk about this. I'm thinking that I could finally talk about this now, after the smoke is cleared. They were not the ideal tenants for anybody. And you, as a landlord, would have been pissed. But the legal system always favors the tenants. It just does. Okay, I went to hearings. I certainly did, and I had a lawyer. But let me finish the story. It was so bad that they play acted. The woman of the house had a certain medical condition, which I'm not going to mention because it'll identify who the tenants are, that every now and then she had to seek medical attention for. Well, one day, she comes out of there on an ambulance because one of her symptoms developed again on the illness that she had. You follow me? And she blamed it on me. Just at the stress of living there. Oh, what the landlord was doing to them. What was I doing to them? Sound familiar story with somebody else that claims no responsibility for their crimes? Sound familiar? They tried to use, once they found out, especially when I was going to sell the house, they found that out. They used every possible tool. They went to an African-American type of community thing that sticks up for people of color. Jesus Christ, I wasn't no fucking racist. If that was the case, I've had tenants living there. I had gay couple who coincidentally, and coinky dinky, was a white man and a black man. And they were both gay. And they were both two different races. I didn't make a judgment on them because they were gay. Can you pay? It's all that matters. I had a guy live there who was down on his luck. He was a criminal, an absolute criminal that might have even been involved with his jailmates on killing a fucking guard. He wore an ankle bracelet. I gave him a chance until he became a real problem. And I got rid of him. I've had some winners, okay? I've had some real winners. I certainly did. I think there's only one tenant I had there that was great. Oh, actually two. Okay. So this went on and on. Knowing that it was going to be hard for them to find a place to live, they just laid on the layers of mud like you wouldn't believe, with the help of certain YouTubers, pre-mentioned, forementioned. And they laid it on me. They tried to find everything on me they could. Tried to call every agency and try to find fault with me. God, does that sound familiar? Sounds like YouTube, doesn't it? Certainly does. Well, it had something to do with YouTube. So I went to court. Then what happened was I was in Hawaii because, the COVID went on. And I didn't know I was going to be stuck there for over a year. I had no absolute clue whatsoever. I was going to be stuck for a fucking year. No clue. But it happened. I had to stay there. And there was a lot of tension going on between me and the tenants, and it was not easy for me. I've had about 4 panic attacks as a result of them. My brother, who was ill like shit, had to go to a hospital emergency room for high blood pressure problems a couple of times as a result of them. He got stuck in the middle of all this crap. He got stuck. You have no clue. Even me trying to paint a picture about this to you is very difficult, unless you actually experienced it. Nobody was ever peering in anybody's windows. The only time I've ever approached their windows was their permission. When I was painting the house, and I had to go around the white window trim on the blue house. And I went to the bathroom windows, which are high up. It was just a narrow window, a sliding window with a screen on it. And I told them, and even not just that, anywhere I went, living room, bedroom, I said, look, I'm going to be out here painting, okay? Okay, cool. That's what the husband said. Okay, cool. And even the wife, well, they weren't actually married. Let's just call them a married couple. Okay, cool. Thanks for letting us know. Everything civil, everything fine. Okay, so when things got hot and heavy, they decided to use that against me, that I was peering in her windows. And let me tell you something, and I don't want to be really rude, but just honest. There was nothing inside that house that my eyes would ever want to witness. But they were extremely sketchy when it came to me painting around the bedroom windows. Those were the mom's room and the kids' room. Well, the tenant's mother, who had a disability, and they would close the curtains. They didn't want me to see the horror inside those rooms, which I did later on, and it was a horror show. And I used a word, I never used it before because I used to hear it used by other people, livid. I never even knew what the word was. But I was livid when I witnessed. I yelled out, "You got to be fucking kidding." They were in the process of getting out. They weren't completely. They still had a few items left. Because they were legally evicted, I could go in the house anytime I wanted to. They did not want to let inspectors come in the house. They did not want the real estate people to come in the house because they did not want to gain witness to the conditions of the inside of the house that they tore apart. I couldn't sell the house for a while because they wouldn't let anybody in. She tried to take a rug shampoo and go over the rug, and it did not even remotely help. The toilet was horrible. The sink was horrible. The bathtub was stained orange. It was disgusting. When I lived on that side of the house, it was pristine. It was pristine. I kept that house as if I was in a fucking military. And my sergeant told me, get down to your fucking hands and knees with a fucking toothbrush and clean this fucking floor. I vacuumed, I dusted, I cleaned windows, I kept everything up. It was my house. So don't pretend that you know the story on this. And you've heard the story being bounced around a lot. Nobody did anything harmful to their children. It was a way of them making a paycheck, which they think they made. They think they made, but they were never able to get that money. And the only reason that the judge put it in favor was by default, because I physically could not be in that courtroom. I was 8,000 miles away. Very difficult. So I decided to appear on camera, which I did. Nobody was running away from nothing or nobody. I was even nice enough when the judge gave them their eviction at court. It was effective immediately. Now, I could have said, get your fucking asses out of my place. You did enough damage to me and to my place. So he nicely asked me, can we have a little bit more time to just, we can get settled somewhere. I said, I'll give you 1 week. I didn't have to do that. I did not have to do that. But I did. I didn't have to show any compassion, but I did. What I should have said is, no, get your fucking asses out of there today. They owed me 4 months' worth of rent. They kept on saying they were going to pay it, they were going to pay it. I was living off that rent. Let me tell you something. I was living off that rent. It put me in a bad position. Well, I had backup money, but that's not the point. From a house I sold in Seattle, but that's not the point. I should not have had to go into that money so I could pay my mortgage and everything else. I paid their electricity. Listen, I paid their electricity. They ran up my bills like crazy because they had a halide light up in the attic, okay? Or a halogen lamp for their keikis. That's why my bill was running up to $500 a month for electricity. Where did my profit go in this? Nowhere. I paid their electricity. I even paid their internet, and I even paid their cable TV. Who has it better than that? And they could not find a place that would afford these luxuries, which I provided to them. I wanted to talk about this for a long time in detail, but I was very reluctant. Now I feel I could. Lots of tenants in there. I could be talking about anybody, really. If there's any coincidence to the story I'm telling, call it a coincidence. But you don't know the hell I went through. You don't know the hell I went through. You don't know the hell my brother went through. We were being attacked at every angle. I couldn't blink my eye without being alleged something or alleged something or alleged something. Nobody, but nobody, me and or my brother or anybody, would ever invade on their privacy. Even when I was spraying for weeds outside, I would tell them I was spraying, but most of the time I used a solution of vinegar and water with salt in it to kill the weeds. They claimed that I was spraying some dangerous chemical and my mother has allergies and everything else. All bullshit. Never any bed bugs. They were the worst tenants I've ever had in my life. They cost me approximately $7,000 to $8,000 to work around the house on the things they broke, that had to replace, sliding door handles, window screens, painting of the whole interior, ripping off the carpets, and having somebody scrape off all the old cement, adhesive under there, grinding it down, putting in tile, not carpeting. Tile. Easily clean tile. Replacing the medicine cabinet in the bathroom that they etched some words into. It was a horror story. Now, you can believe anything you want to believe on the internet, but this is the real story. And nobody prompted me to say this. Nobody. I'm saying this on my own. Nobody did. They were very religious people. That God's going to help them out. God's watching over them, they said. Yeah. God wasn't watching over me. God took sides, apparently. But they're not living the life. And probably right now they're probably destitute. They probably had to move out of the island somewhere. So nasty that one of the tenants approached my brother on a beach who was walking his dog and basically threatened him. My brother had nothing to do with anything of this. But they put my brother on their bad side. They were supposed to be, they called him uncle to the kids. Now, let's get back to something. While I had to spend over a year in Hawaii, and I lived over my brother's place, if I was such a mean-ass landlord and did all this crazy stuff, why would they invite us to barbecues? Why would his wife voluntarily, hey, come and have a free haircut because she did that kind of stuff? Why did they, when they had leftovers, would give us some? Give us part of their dinners. Why would they do that? If I was such a mean-ass bastard and I was a bad landlord, why in the world would they do that? They wouldn't normally. Nobody ever attacked in any form or way. There was one verbal argument that I had with the boyfriend, the husband, call him whatever you want, outside. And I voiced my opinion about everything that's going on. I want my rent, I want this. I told him to his face, you want to hit me, don't you? I know you do. Why don't you do that? Why don't you do that? I don't want to hit you. I said, I've seen in your eyes, you want to hit me. Go right ahead. It's up to you. I said, I'm telling you right now, I want my rent. I want you to allow that apartment open with 24-hour notice, a 40-hour notice, which I did all the time, folks. All the time. Proper notice, written notice, as told to me by my lawyer, which I did. And they still didn't want to let anybody in there. Didn't want to let inspectors come over so I could get the house sold, because there's certain inspections you have to get made and get a certificate for it. They did not want the real estate people who were going to represent me to buy that house come in there. Well, you make up your mind about this story. But on the love of my dead parents, on the love of anything good in my life that's ever come my way, I'm telling you the truth. These were tenants from hell that you see on TV sometimes. This was the real McCoy. I went through shit. I'm surprised I didn't have a cardiac arrest. I'm surprised my brother did not have a cardiac arrest, especially him. They were the tenants from hell. I got stuck with them. And I had some bad tenants, but not anywhere close to this. That's the whole story. Nobody, but nobody, ever did anything wrong with a child. And they made a big issue about singing a song that had to do with Fazio, of all people. And it was a Muffin Man song, which is no folklore song. Never mentioned the anatomical name of a penis. Never mentioned that at all. Never, ever. No child was touched, and why would any child be touched? There was an open door. It was not in a bedroom, because he didn't have a bedroom there. It was a big open room. Door was open. And my brother was sitting, rolling a doobie, which he probably shouldn't have done around a kid, but he's used to that, because his parents would smoke marijuana around him all the time. My brother was sitting on the deck rolling a doobie. Wasn't alone. Right there, 12 feet away from me. I would never harm a child. I would never even think about it. I have 2 children that I look after over here. Never do I look at them in a funny way. Never would I ever do anything of that nature to any children. I love children, and they generally love me. I treat them well. And actually, the kid in mind on that scenario was a good kid. We both liked him. He was kind of a sheltered child. Very sheltered. He gained a big belly because he had no activity. He didn't hang around friends, didn't do activities. He was a shut-in. They used the children to watch the house while they were gone doing whatever the hell they were doing. Underage children they were using alone in the house. So the story comes out. This is my story. They caused so much harm and hell for both me and my brother that it would be a movie of the week. That's something, you've probably seen something similar to that on TV, on HBO or something, I'm sure. Something about landlords from hell, or tenants from hell, actually, in this particular case. Don't believe everything you hear on here, because there's 2 sides to every story. Anyway, that's my story on that. I wanted to get it out of the way. I really did. That's what happened. Injustice was done to me. They're never going to see a dime of that money they did sue me. It was civil. It was not criminal. Not criminal whatsoever. And it was nothing to do about the kids. They just included the children in their allegations. That's all they did. This is not a case of the children against me. They mentioned the family members in the original documents as a family. That's all they did. And you got some asshole that's trying to use that in court against me. Good luck with that one. That ain't gonna work. But I just thought I'd tell my story on here. I wouldn't wish this on anybody, and I do mean practically anybody. Don't be a landlord. It's not worth it. And if you are going to be a landlord, make sure you get a professional to screen them, to screen their employment situation, okay? Past references from other places that they rent. This was not their first rodeo, folks. It was far from, and they've done this to other people. I'm 125% sure of it. They were professionals on what they were doing. And they got their way to a point until they got evicted. And I evicted their sorry asses out of my property. And you have no idea what a relief that was to me and my brother. I could take over my place, fix it up, and I moved back into it during my stay in Hawaii because of the COVID. Got back in my old place again, and it felt like home. I cleaned everything. There was not a skin cell, not even a skin cell, left of my former tenants. Walls, floors, doors, windows. I fumigated that place. There wasn't one goddamn skin cell from these people, and it felt like home again. I regained my home. I hope you enjoyed the story.